one of the definite downsides of living in China. 大家好，我是 Hey everyone, it's Sir Ant in China. Thank you for joining me on the channel today. And today I'm out. As you can see, it's a gorgeous day. Once again, having a little ride on my Blue Beauty. Let me show you before I get to today's topic where I ended up. Let me flip the camera so you can see what's going on. Hey everyone, do me a huge favor and please help me to grow this channel. All it takes is for you to hit that subscribe button and throw me a thumbs up. It really does help the YouTube algorithm to find my videos and to share them with more people. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. 谢谢你. So of course, as usual, I'm riding my little Blue Beauty here. I'm currently at Dayun Gongyuan, which is the Universiade Park. That building right over there is the Hong Kong University of China Shenzhen campus. Look at this park. It is just off the hook. Over across the street is the stadium. I just finished my 20-kilometer bike ride. We've got nice little covered areas and pagodas over here. We've got drink machines. And if we keep going this way, you can see there's this awesome little lake here. Just beautiful, gorgeous. Flowers are blooming everywhere, even though it's technically March. The lake is gorgeous. There are lovely ladies filming vlogs nearby. But what a beautiful place. And even though swimming is not allowed, nor is fishing, just for safety's sake, there are these safety rings here placed by the government just in case. But what a gorgeous day. However, that said, all this gorgeous beauty comes at a cost. Let me explain. All right, I decided to move over here into the shade under this awning that they've put up in the park. It's really quite interesting. They've got these big metal frames um, going over with a cloth covering on top to provide shade. Looks really interesting. There are drink machines. There are benches to sit on. Obviously, it's beautifully landscaped. It smells like a candy store because of all the flowers. It's really, really nice. But that does lead me to today's topic about one of the definite downsides of living in China, but more specifically South China, and that is the heat. Let me explain. When I first moved to China, it's always been to South China. I was told by the school the company I was working for that was finding me school, oh no, you don't want to go to South China. Trust me, you want to go north, because if you go to South China, you're not going to be able to handle the heat. You're from Canada. You're used to cold weather. It's going to kill you. And I said, no, no, no. I've experienced cold weather all my life. I'm going to give the heat a go. And in a way, I'm glad I did, but it was a change. Let me tell you, even 20 years ago, before climate change was really a thing, it was a big change. The high humidity, the much higher than average temperatures that I'm used to, would mean that as soon as I would walk out of an air conditioned room, every pore on my body would start sweating. I would start sweating from places that I had never sweat from before in my entire life. It was bizarre. And it was difficult for me. I was very self conscious. I was very, very shy about it. You know, I felt embarrassed because I was sweating so much when the rest of the local people, they weren't sweating as much as I was. They were sweating, don't get me wrong, but just not the just waterfalls of sweat that were pouring off of me. And I felt very self-conscious and I felt really quite bad about it. But my wife, girlfriend at the time, she, I told her this and she said, don't be upset. Don't be self-conscious about sweating. She says, you live in South China now. If you are not sweating, people are going to look at you funny because they all understand that if you're living here, you're sweating. That's perfectly normal. If you are not sweating at all in this kind of heat, you're sick. There is something seriously wrong with you, and then people are going to avoid you. So that made me feel a lot better. And I've actually come to a place now in my life where I embrace the sweating. If I'm sweating, that's good. That means my body is detoxifying. My body is getting rid of stuff out of my skin that shouldn't have been there anyway. And I just understand that it's natural. There's not a hell of a lot I can do about it, to be quite honest. But that is definitely a challenge. I grew up in Canada, in the northernmost city in the world of 1 million people. Um, very, very far north, even by Canadian standards. I am used to winters reaching minus 30, minus 40 degrees Celsius. And summers, even though it could get 29, 30 degrees, it was a dry heat. So, as much as people back home will complain about those temperatures now, compared to this, it's nothing, because whereas it would say 29 to 30 degrees Celsius in the summer in Edmonton, with the heat index and the fact there was no moisture in the air, it would be 29 to 30 degrees Celsius. Whereas here, last year I hit a temperature, or I made a video one day where the temperature hit 35 degrees Celsius without the heat index. With the heat index, it hit 45 degrees Celsius. And so I made a video to show people just how bloody hot it was. And it was kind of funny, actually. I got quite a few viewers that sent me messages saying, that's bullshit. It's not that hot in Shenzhen. I looked on Google, and Google shows the average temperature to be between 26 and 29 in summertime. So when you say it's 45 degrees Celsius, that's a lie. That's not true. Please. I mean, if you don't believe me how hot things are, just go over to AccuWeather or weathernetwork.com, any of those type of websites, and take a look for yourself. Unless they're all lying just to make my story look better. Yeah, no, I wasn't lying then, and I'm not lying now. Last year was the hottest year on record ever. So of course the weather is changing. Of course it's getting hotter, and that's not going to be reflected on the average temperatures because they're not looking in the future. They're looking at temperatures from the past. Let's take a look at today, for example. In Edmonton, my Canadian hometown, it's currently minus 4 degrees Celsius with a wind chill putting it at about minus 6, which is actually not bad and pretty average for March. However, here today, it is 29 degrees Celsius with a heat index of 33 degrees Celsius. It is hot. It is very, very, very hot. So this means that no matter what you do, you are going to sweat. If you are going for a walk in the park, if you're going for a bike ride, I did 20 kilometers today. If you leave your house to go downstairs and go to the store and pick something up and come back, you're going to sweat, especially if you're a foreigner like me that's used to a northern climate. That was one of the bigger challenges I knew that I was going to face moving back to China last year, as I knew it was going to be hotter. Um, Living in Canada, the winter sucked for the past 7 years because I was already acclimatized to living in China, because I lived in China for so long that the winters were colder, but the summers were hilarious when all of my friends and coworkers would be just pouring sweat and complaining about the oppressive heat. I wouldn't even be sweating, not even a drip off my brow, because I was so used to the uh, incredible heat and humidity here that the moderate heat and dryness there, I felt perfectly fine. Well, when we decided that we were going to be moving back to China and to South China specifically, I knew this was going to be a big challenge for me, and it is for most people. A lot of my friends and family in Canada will say to me on a very regular basis, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you can live in that heat. Well, believe it or not, the Chinese people say the exact same thing to me about Canada, just the exact opposite. Whereas we can't believe how they live in this 30 to 40 degree temperatures here, they can't believe that we live in minus 30 to 40 temperatures in Canada. And it's the same type of deal. Let me explain. In Canada, when it's minus 20 outside, it's not so bad because your house has a heater. So when you're in your house, you're warm. And then you go to your car, you get into your car, and your car has a heater. So then you're warm. You get to work, you work all day, work has a heater, so you're warm there. So basically, the only time you're really freezing is when you're commuting back and forth to work or going outside to go shopping or doing something like that. It's the exact same thing here in the summer. Your house has air conditioning, and then you go outside, your car has air conditioning, You go to work, your job has air conditioning. So once again, the only time you're really suffering the heat is when you choose to be outside or in a non-air conditioned place. Exactly the same as in Canada, where you choose to be outside in a non-heated place. I always have maintained that I believe honestly that colder climates are easier because you can always put on more clothes. But when it comes to a hot environment like China, like South China here, um, there's only so naked you can get, right? Like you can't take off more clothing than you have, right? Once you're naked, and that's as cool as you're gonna get. But in Canada, you can put on sweaters, you can put on long underwear, you can put on extra socks, you can put on scarves and toques and thick, heavy clothing, right? And you can keep adding on until you're such a big bundle you can barely move. But yeah, naked is as naked as you can get here. So yeah, that is a big challenge, and especially for people like myself, like I said, coming from Canada, Russia, even uh, northern parts of America, places like that, Europe. Coming to South China is going to be a challenge because the heat is rough. It's not something for everybody. It's something that I accepted before I came here. The first time I came here back in 2004, it was really hard. It took me a long time to acclimatize. I'm having a much easier time of it this time because I understand that this is going to be going on and I accept it. And therefore, it's not as much of a struggle for me. As you can tell, it's 33 degrees outside, and I'm just finished a 22 or a 20-kilometer bike ride. It'll be 22 by the time I get home. I'm sitting in a beautiful park. Um, there's a slight breeze, and I enjoy it. Oh boy, I enjoy that breeze. But 20 years ago, I would have been just right uncomfortable. I'm sweaty. And I don't care anymore. I've come to grips with that. I accept that. You know, as my wife told me all those years ago, if you're sweating, don't feel self-conscious about sweating in China or in South China because everybody sweats in South China. People will look at you more funny if you're not sweating in the heat because then that means you're sick. Anyway, that's one of the downsides of living in China, at least for me. I'm sure there are some people that would love it, or people that come from very hot climates themselves. I understand that Shenzhen is a lot like Florida, so if you're from Florida, Shenzhen might be an ideal place for you to come live. But for a lot of us, that heat is difficult, and it is a potential downside. And I'll share more of these potential downsides with you as these videos go along. But that's what I felt like sharing with you today. But I'm going to hop back onto my Blue Beauty here and continue my ride through the park on my way home. And we will see you in the next video.